What did I do? Jesus, I thought we just had a nice moment, but apparently you still hate me.
Hi, I'm Maddie,
And I'm Abigail, and this is
two writers.
Many Wrongs. Two writers, many ways to publish. Today, we're going to talk about all of the different publishing routes we've touched on previously. We've had authors who have done a lot of these different publishing routes on the show. So I'm sure that some of our listeners have an idea, but we wanted to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of it all. For me, I really like this topic because I don't know about you, but every time that I tell somebody that I'm a writer, and then they're first question is always like, "Oh, can I get your book anywhere?" And trying to explain to people the publishing process, and they always ask, they're like, "Well, why don't you just self-publish?" It's like, because because it's a lot more than just writing a book and deciding I want it out there. So I'm
Mhm.
I'm excited to talk about this topic today.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic because I too get the same kind of thing. Like, oh, why don't you just self-publish? Because I
Hmm.
talk about how I keep getting like my short stories rejected and stuff,
Right, yeah,
which is that's a whole different thing we're not talking about. But
exactly. We've already talked about publishing short stories.
right. But like I've never actually queried
Hmm.
a book yet. So it's
Hmm.
also like, well, why would I start there? And
Hmm.
also it's just not what I want. And I think that's something that we're going to talk about is
Hmm.
why you would choose each method, like why and like just helping other writers define what their goals are and what how they want to present their work and publish it.
Exactly. Yeah. So talking about querying agents, because, we've talked before about in order to publish traditionally, you have to have an agent. And so it's kind of one of the first like hurdles to do. So I have queried 26 agents at this point,
Oh,
which
hell
is
yeah.
not a lot in the grand
No.
scheme of things. We've talked to several different authors who have said, oh, published or queried 100 agents. So I'm really not going to like start losing hope or like feel like I have to like rewrite or change things probably until I get to 100 rejections. Which sounds wild because I feel
Right.
like in any other field, after a couple of rejections, you start changing things and like updating your approach. Um, but this is just kind of what publishing and writing is.
Yeah, you have to have a thick skin.
Hmm. Yeah. And I've adjusted my query letter from time to time.
Yeah.
But really, I know that it's more about finding the right person. So let's just talk about traditional publishing first, since we're already here talking about agents. So traditional publishing, you have the big five publishers. These are the ones that people will have heard about, understand. Penguin Random House, which those used to be two separate things and they combine. So now it's Penguin Random House, Hachette Book Group, HarperCollins, Macmillan, and Simon and Schuster.
Mhm.
And pretty much any book that you get from Barnes and Noble, from your local bookstore, whatever, is most likely going to be published by one of those big five.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
also
exclusive. Yeah, also.
they have like little subsidiaries. So sometimes
Exactly.
you'll see something and it's like, oh, it's not one of the big five. And if you look a little closer, you'll
Yeah.
realize, oh, it is part of the big
Yeah,
five. Let me
so
see if
I
I find
used
any.
to, I would say I used to publish, or sorry, process the returns at my bookstore.
Yeah.
And it was something that like you had to know in the back of your head, like, oh, this like Hachette has so many different subsidiaries that they all of those books still get returned to Hachette. Um, and so you just have to like know those things.
Orbit, Hachette.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, so that Simon Schuster has a lot of subsidiaries as well. So we had a list in the receiving room of the different subsidiaries so that you were returning to the correct place.
Tor, Macmillan.
Hmm.
So,
Exactly.
you
Yep.
can find that in like the on the copyright page.
Yep.
It'll be on
Exactly.
there. But
Yep.
a lot of the top five are
Hmm.
like you might see more publishers, but at the end of the day, it may just be a subsidiary of one of the top five.
And why is that? Because we live in a consumerist hellscape and everything's owned by something else. Um, but yeah, so traditional publishing, it it's limited, right? It's really fucking hard to get into. Um, you have to have just the right agent, query just the right publishing house. However, there are so many advantages to traditional publishing. From having it be in stores easily available,
Mhm.
you're going to have it in a bookstore at some point. When they release, you're going to get a hardback. It's going to go on the new releases section at Barnes and Noble. Even if it's not on there for a long time, like it's basically guaranteed if you publish with one of those top five.
Mhm.
What are some other advantages to traditional publishing?
I think the team behind you, you have a big team of people that are skilled at making that they're studied in how like what kind of covers are the most marketable, what kind of
Mm,
font should be used for this particular type of thing. They
hmm.
know what books to market it with. That like, oh, this
Yeah.
will be like, oh, if you're a fan of this, they have contacts with people that can blurb your book.
Yes. Oh my gosh, book blurbs is a whole thing in itself.
That's a whole thing in itself. And I think
Hmm.
having like a marketing and PR team
Hmm.
and having access to like a legal team and like people that you
Yeah.
can rely on who, know their
Hmm.
shit and have been doing it for a long time. I think that's really nice. Like you don't have to
Yeah.
know all these things yourself. You have a team of people that are dedicated to helping you promote your book. But even before that, they have teams of editors. There's multiple rounds of editing it goes through, different
Hmm.
types of editors. Like they have proofread just they have somebody who's just looking at the grammar at the very end of it. But you have
Exactly.
people looking at structural edits and you go back and forth and they're going to help you
Hmm.
produce the best book that is the most marketable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know there are a lot of authors who look at that as a disadvantage, who look at that as a lack of control, because some of the downsides to traditional publishing are things like you do not have control of your book cover. If you're lucky, they might give you some options and you get to pick from one of those, but oftentimes they get to pick the book cover. In addition to that, you're working with editors who are trying to get the best marketable book.
Right.
So they might not be completely in step with your vision. Now, a lot of that is going to be for your agent to help advocate on your behalf. Because that's the other thing is that when you do traditional publishing, you have your agent on your side, and that's the person who is going to bat for you. That's the person who is fighting with the publishing house if they really want to change something.
Mhm.
Um, which is why it's so important to have an agent who is willing to champion you.
Right.
But, to me, the negative of not being able to pick up my book cover is negligible when I know that it's going to be readily available at a bookstore. But some authors are more precious with their like creative ideas, which I don't blame them for.
Yeah, I totally get that. I think for me, I mean, like I have an idea of like what a cover might look like, but at the end of the day, I don't know my, I don't know like what
Yeah,
would make someone want to pick this book up. These people are thinking of it in that way.
exactly.
Like somebody who's a
Yes.
fan of this kind of stuff, what would they be
Hmm.
looking for when they saw the cover? Because people really do judge a book by its cover.
I do.
So I would rather lean on somebody who has the experience and would be able
Hmm.
to present it because like I think they would
Hmm.
come up with ideas that I wouldn't have thought of
Yep.
because and I think too that comes from working in corporate is like
Hmm.
you had a specialized team for every little thing and I would
Yep.
try to like have like oh this is how I would present it and then I would bring it to a team member who that was like their whole thing and they would
Hmm.
present something different and I was like whoa that is way better and I would never have
Right.
thought of that and
Hmm.
so I kind of lean on like I bet that the experts would have a much better idea of what a really compelling cover might look like
Yeah.
than I would.
And I would say, and there are times obviously where it's going to suck and everything's going to kind of get generic and look the same or whatever else. But I think that the part that you touched on is that they know what's going to sell. And when it comes down to traditional publishing, one of the reasons why you go that route is because it's going to be more profitable often than a small press or self-publishing, because that's, they're the foundation of the book industry, really.
Hmm.
And it's not to say that you can't make money any other way. You absolutely can.
And there's obviously
Unless
exceptions to the rules.
obviously, exactly. But to me, I really like my dream is to be traditionally published, um, specifically because I want that team around me, because I want to surround myself with people who know more than I do.
Yeah, I think that's very similar to me. I also, writing is hard.
Yeah.
Writing a book is really
What?
hard. Yeah,
No,
it's really hard.
I didn't know
I'm like,
that.
I keep saying like, this is the summer I'm going to query, and then I end up being on draft number 750.
Yeah,
But I promise you, I am working on it actively all the time. It's
I
just
know.
not quite there yet. I know
Yeah.
I'll know when it's there. But anyway,
Hmm.
I don't want to have to think about other things. I want to
Yeah.
just focus on the writing because that is hard
Hmm.
enough
Yes.
that I want a team to support me who
Hmm.
can, so I don't have to split myself. Because, like, that's something I do a lot is like, I feel like I split
Hmm.
myself into multiple pieces as like, when I was trying to do
Yes.
like TikTok and stuff,
Hmm.
I felt like my energy was so scattered
Yeah.
that I really couldn't devote the time that I wanted to my novel. And I feel like that was part of the reason my novel hasn't pivot. I mean, that I haven't had more
Yeah.
progress with it because I just was only giving like 10% because I had to give 10% over here. And
Hmm.
so traditional publishing would be like I can focus pretty much just on the writing, or at
Hmm.
least more so than I could if I was, say, being self-published.
Right, exactly. Well, because that's, we were just talking about Taylor Swift earlier, and the difference between her as a singer-songwriter versus her as a person. And we are very much in this era where you are your own brand. And so it's really hard for me because I want my books to be able to speak for themselves. But that's not the world that we live in anymore. People will buy something based off of what they think of you as a person, what they think of your morals, all the rest of it, which I'm not saying is a good or bad thing. I think that there are aspects to both. But it's really difficult to when you're self-publishing, you have to put yourself out there in a lot of ways that are very scary to me. And traditional publishing, yes, you are still part of your own brand, but you're going to have a whole team of people to help you coordinate that brand,
Yeah.
and to hopefully keep some privacy. I'm amazed that Paige is as on the internet as she is, and I had no idea that she had a kid. Like she does a really wonderful job of like keeping her private life private, but still branding herself as an author. And I would have a really hard time with that.
Yeah. Again, when did my little tiny stint with TikTok,
Hmm.
I was exhausting.
Yeah.
And like, you try to present yourself in a certain way, and I just
Hmm.
felt very inauthentic. I didn't feel like myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this podcast is a way that I feel comfortable
Hmm.
like putting myself out there. And I think
Yeah.
that's something too to think about if you are
Hmm.
wanting to promote yourself is to
Yeah.
find a medium that's most authentic to you because I did not
Hmm.
feel like the doing the TikTok was. Even though I
Yeah.
tried to do a TikTok that I felt was more authentic to me as
Hmm.
a person,
Yeah.
this feels more comfortable. This feels more like I can be myself.
Well, I like being in conversation, rather than a TikTok very much is just like putting out into the universe. It's also, I feel like there's a big difference between we spend this podcast talking about the art of writing and the craft of writing,
Right.
versus, a lot of these small press or self-published authors. They have to promote their own book. And like, I have a hard enough time when somebody asks me what my book is about, like summarizing it, like I really need to practice that one-liner.
Yeah.
But it's an art. It really, really is an art to put yourself online like that. And traditional publishing will help you figure that out. I want to shift a little bit away from traditional publishing. And can you talk a little about like, we know there's traditional publishing, we know there's self-publishing. What is in between that?
Wait, okay. Well, you have a hybrid, which is
Hmm.
somewhere between self-publishing and traditionally publishing, probably
Hmm.
more akin to a small press than a one of the top five, big five.
Hmm.
And then there's another category that would be called a vanity press.
Hmm.
I don't want to spend too much time talking about vanity presses just because I can't really talk about vanity presses in a way that's not negative.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're not here to bash anybody, but there are definitely some strong opinions when it comes to all of this.
Yes, definitely for sure. With vanity presses, it's more of a like you it's like a pay to
Hmm.
play. You're
Yeah.
like I'm paying money to get my book published and out
Hmm.
there, and so that's why it's called vanity.
Yeah.
Um,
To me, somebody would choose a vanity press when they um, want to have, like, I publish a book under their resume. To me, it's not so much about they want their words out there. It's not necessarily because they want to share this thing with the world. It is because they want the credit, I guess, to be able to tell people, "Oh, I've published a book."
mhm.
I feel like when I think of vanity presses, I think of people who are already like strong in their own careers and
Mhm.
kind of did this just as like a trophy for their shelf, really.
Yeah, I've seen people that I know that know of that have used
Mhm.
vanity presses are like older folks who've
Yes.
written like their memoir
Hmm.
and they want to
Yeah.
have it published and they want it to be a book, so they pay
Right.
for it to be because like I don't think
Hmm.
they care about like selling it or
Exactly.
they just want it to exist in the world.
Exactly.
And I
Yeah.
think that vanity press isn't really for somebody if writing is like a career choice.
Hmm.
I don't
Exactly.
think that's what it's for. In my opinion,
Yeah.
I could be totally wrong.
No, I agree with you. When I think of vanity presses, I think specifically of nonfiction.
Yes.
Obviously there is fiction in that world, but I think of like you said, somebody who wants to publish a memoir, or something similar to that, in a niche area of interest or hobby, that they feel like they really have something to say about it.
Right.
Um,
Or like I think I've
yeah.
heard of people using a vanity press for like they wanted to write a book for their family and they wanted
Yes.
copies of
Hmm.
it and they don't it's not like they're like, "Oh, I want
Yeah.
everybody to read this." It's like I want a select group of people to read this.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think that would be another more like another way of using I was
Hmm.
gonna say more wholesome because
Yeah.
'cause I
Yeah.
think that's really sweet. Like if you were like
Hmm.
wanted to write a children's book for your
Hmm.
nieces and you want but you don't want like if it's not for
Yeah.
everybody, it's for your
Right.
nieces.
Yeah.
A vanity press might be the way to go.
Yeah. Well, and it becomes difficult because why somebody would choose a vanity press over self-publishing, I think is really when we get into the nitty-gritty of like intent,
Mhm.
which I don't want to get into too much because again, I'm not trying to like rag on anybody. But yeah, so I went ahead and like Googled just the definition of a vanity press just so that we could really like clarify. Basically, it's a publishing model where authors pay to have their work published rather than the publisher investing in the project and taking on the financial risk. So really, you pay to self-publish as well, to some degree. But to me, you do a vanity press when you want to check that little box of, oh, a publisher published my book. I'm not self-published.
Right.
And so
And
that's where
I
I have issue.
I did look into a vanity press once because I
Mhm.
wrote a book for a friend and I wanted to have like it was just for her, it wasn't for anybody
Yeah.
else. And so I looked into it to like how much would it cost to make it into a book and get it printed,
Hmm.
et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
And something that's really nice about a vanity press is like it has like options like you can have books
Yeah.
this size or this size and you select it and it's like, like ordering a custom
Right.
t-shirt on
Exactly.
online.
Yep. Exactly.
Whereas
Yeah.
like when you self-publish, there's a lot of that stuff like it's not like a little thing that you like put together like with a form.
Hmm.
It's you have to go out and find like what size does this need to be and
Exactly.
covers and stuff. But we can get
Yep.
more into that in a second.
Yeah. Yeah, so before we go into self-publishing, let's talk a little bit about small press publishing, which, like you said, kind of at times can go hand in hand with hybrid publishing. But when I think of small publishers, I know we've talked about this before, that I watch Gilmore Girls, but a character on Gilmore Girls, Jess Mariano, who I love, eventually, like when he kind of moves on with his life post college, runs a small press with his friends. And, they talk about they only publish so many books a year. And it's very hard to like still get them into bookstores. Like it's still a lot of you doing your own marketing. However, bookstores are able to get them in much easier. Whereas self-publishing, a lot of times bookstores are unable to get those books in stores. Self-publishing, you are truly selling them yourself. A small press, at least, you have a little bit of support.
Yeah, I think too, there's also there's like, the big five, but there's also
Hmm.
like medium, small presses.
Exactly.
But I think the thing is you have a lot of the same resources you do have with
Hmm.
like the big five, but
Hmm.
at a much smaller scale. Like maybe
Yes.
instead of having like a dedicated PR marketing team, you
Hmm.
have one person who is your PR marketing team,
Exactly.
who's also your editor and and like the HR guy. I don't know,
Exactly. Yeah.
they're kind of
Your
doing
editor might wear a lot of hats
right.
rather than just editing.
But I think too, because I think we've had authors on here who've had small
Hmm.
presses and talking about, whereas like, you have a lot of resources with those big
Hmm.
five. With the smaller ones, it's a more personal, a more intimate experience, and
Yes.
it feels a
It's
lot more
more
targeted.
collaborative.
Yes.
Yes.
But also like
Um,
everybody's gonna know you and everybody's gonna be helping you, whereas like you're gonna be
hmm.
like a small fish in a large pond if you're working with the big five.
Exactly. Yes. 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 I'm looking up. When we were at the University of Tampa, there were some people there who graduated. I want to say either the cohort above me or two cohorts above me that worked at Burrow Press, which is a small publisher
Mhm.
that has a really, great reputation. But literary publisher founded in Orlando, Florida, has provided over 1,600 opportunities for writers to publish and share their work. And they talk about like their distribution center, how all of that kind of works. But it's again a lot of they do some short story collections, they have some novellas, poetry collections. It's kind of going to be stuff that, not to say that big publishers don't touch story collections and things, but I feel like when you're writing a story collection or a poetry collection, a small press it might be the better fit for you.
Yeah, I do want to touch on that because I think that is
Hmm.
an important thing to think about is
Hmm.
the type of story that you're writing and its purpose. Because we're like the big five are probably gonna look for something that's like going to be more profitable. So they want a
Exactly.
specific kind of thing.
Hmm.
Whereas these smaller presses, they're more of a labor of love, and they're the
Yeah.
people who are creating books for the love
Hmm.
of books. So they're going to
Exactly.
be more open to something that's maybe a little weird that maybe may not be
Yes.
super like this isn't going to
Hmm.
be a New York Times bestseller, but it is going
Right.
to be a great book that somebody is
Hmm.
going to love.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
there's that
When I
aspect of it too.
Well, and when I think about it, I think about our creative writing teachers and mentors that we had at grad school. A lot of them published through small presses
Mhm.
because it is, yes, they are serious writers, but a lot of them would do like absurdist writing
Mhm.
or kind of, not like typical writing,
Yeah.
And so they were able to find homes at small publishers. Um, but, a small publisher, they're still selective in what they take.
Mhm.
You don't have to have an agent necessarily, but you still have to submit your work. You still have to be a good writer. You still have to, um, you know, do all of those things that you would do for a traditional publisher to be selected by them rather than a vanity press or self-publishing, which oftentimes is just, hey, I wrote this thing, publish it. A small press is still going to be selective in what they're choosing because they have their own brand of what they're representing as well.
Yeah. I
So to
think
me, a small press is definitely still quality.
no, definitely. I think
Yeah.
like it's good to look at the different I mean, see, one of the nice things of doing like a bigger press that you need an
Hmm.
agent for is your
Right.
agent knows these presses and knows what they're looking for.
Exactly.
But I think when you're going through a small press, you should be looking at the kinds of books that they publish. But I feel
Hmm.
like small presses are more willing to take risks that
Yes.
bigger publishers
Hmm.
aren't because they're like, we're in the business of making
Yeah,
money
exactly.
and this isn't going to
Yep.
sell. We're not going to take it. So it's not
Hmm.
necessarily a knock on the quality of the writing.
Exactly.
It's how much sale, how much, because that's what they're
Hmm.
thinking of. How much can I sell
Yep,
this for?
exactly. Whereas I feel like small presses are thinking about the art of writing and is this a great story that deserves to be out in the world and how can we help it get there? Um,
Right.
but again, the downsides to that are going to come with the marketing and the selling aspect and helping you get there. But to me, I still very much want an agent. And if my agent came to me and said, "Hey, we went ahead and submitted your manuscript to all of these different places, and these, either medium or small presses, whatever, want it." I really don't think I'd be opposed to that. It's going to be a smaller advance because they don't have as much money to pay their authors that advance. But it's kind of a blessing in disguise in that way, because you can make more money on the tail end when you get a huge advance from these major publishers. That might be the only money you're
Mhm.
ever making off of that book. Um,
Yeah, and like the way publishing works, as far as I
mhm.
understand it, is when you get that advance, it's kind of like a
Yep,
loan because you have to sell as much of that advance,
exactly.
and you won't start seeing profits until that point.
Hmm.
And if you sell
Yep.
less than that advance, there's a
Hmm.
chance you might get blacklisted.
Exactly. Yeah. And,
So,
your publisher can say, "Oh, well, I think this is going to be the next whatever fucking Harry Potter. So we're going to give you a huge advance," which of course you're going to take because it's money, but like don't because like you said, if you don't sell that much, it's not good for you because then your publisher is going to be like, "Oh, well, we gave them all this money and they turned out to be a dud." Yeah,
yeah.
it's so tricky.
So I would say when you're negotiating,
Hmm.
it's better to take a lower
Agreed.
offer because
Yeah.
it's less of a
Yep.
risk. And then once you hit that, then you're going to start seeing profits from your book.
Exactly.
So it's actually better to take a smaller advance than a large
Agreed.
advance because a large advance is a large amount of pressure.
Exactly.
But I do want to go back to talking about
Yeah.
agents. I think for me, I want an agent,
Hmm.
period, regardless of whether I do small, medium, large, like you said,
Same.
because I want to have somebody on my side
Yes.
that I can talk to that because
Yeah.
writing is hard.
Hmm.
It's a difficult
Yeah.
business and like the marketing aspect and the
Hmm.
research the finding things is really hard. So
Hmm.
having a partner to rely on is something that I really, really would
Yeah.
like. So
Yeah.
again, so I can focus on
Hmm.
the part that I'm already
Hmm.
struggling with, which is the writing a
Yeah.
book part. So having a partner that can help me find where to place it would be really
Well, in
nice.
talking to Michaela Whatnall, they had some really interesting points because they were talking about all the different stuff that they do throughout the day, and contract negotiation is part of that. Um, and I'm not gonna know what the fuck is going on. And like, yeah, you can hire a lawyer, but that's a whole other thing. Like, do you trust that lawyer? Are they specialized in like it leads to so many more questions. And to have an agent there who loves your book, is going to fight for it, but is also knowledgeable about, "Oh, well, this press has published these three other books and they did this much, in sales, blah, blah, blah. Like, you need to ask for more money," or, "Oh, no, that's too much. You should ask, we should take less because blah, blah." Like, they know this world.
They do.
Michaela talked about that they were like, "I never had that writing bug. Like, I never wanted to be a writer. I just wanted to be like my friends' libraries. I just wanted to be able to promote the next book that I love." Um,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's really the key difference is that agents have dedicated themselves to understanding this industry and to advocating for their next favorite book.
Yeah, like I think I'm a fairly intelligent person,
Yes,
but
agreed.
I'm very
Yeah.
inexperienced with contracts for
Hmm.
books. And like I wouldn't know what I was looking at.
Hmm.
And I'd be like, oh, that sounds like a good deal to
Right.
me. But an agent might be like, this is a terrible
Hmm.
deal. Don't take
Exactly.
this. You can do so much better. I wouldn't
Hmm.
know that.
Well, and
I wouldn't know
especially when
that.
it comes to things like rights, when we talked to TJ Klune and he
Mhm.
talked about, oh, well, I went through a small press independent publisher without an agent, and they were doing a bunch of shifty stuff because, and he was like, I didn't know any better until it was kind of too late and they'd
Yeah.
taken all this money from me. And so having an agent there who can advocate for you, who can keep an eye out for that kind of stuff, because all we want as writers is to share our books with the world. That's like literally that's all I want to do is just hand
But
my book to people.
I also I also want to put my best book forward.
Yes.
And so having, again, I know we keep harping on traditional
Hmm.
publishing, but I really want traditional publishing because I want a team of
Hmm.
people to look at it and help me
Hmm.
present it in the best way
Hmm.
possible instead of just me being like, yeah, I think this is
Yeah.
my best and
Yeah.
throwing it on the internet because I writing a book is really
Hmm.
hard. And so having another few perspectives to help me figure out like that can look at it more
Hmm.
objectively and help me write the best version of
Yeah.
it is I want the best for my
Yep.
book. I don't think that I don't know that I am 100%
Hmm.
qualified to make the best of
And
the
I want to
book.
clarify everything that we've talked about so far falls under the umbrella of traditional publishing. A vanity press, a small press, the big five, all of those are within the range of traditional publishing. Self-publishing is its own thing. So just in case people are getting confused about, oh, well, why would you do a small press when you could traditionally publish? It's like, no, that's the difference between a small press versus a large press, which is one of the big five. But all of that is considered traditional publishing because you have a team of people there who are helping you edit your book, market your book, get it out into the world. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go to self-publishing because
Let's.
I know there's also hybrid, but I think it'll make
Yeah,
more sense if
agreed.
we expound on
Hmm.
self-publishing
Hmm.
first. So self-publishing is it's your work, you put it
Hmm.
out there.
Just
And
what it sounds
that's
like.
it could be as simple as uploading an EPUB file
Hmm.
or whatever the Kindle
Hmm.
Direct file is
Yep.
right now to
Hmm.
Amazon and just putting a price tag on it, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Or you can make it as simple or as complicated as
Yeah.
you want.
I mean,
Or just posting it on your blog. That's also
yes, that's
self-publishing.
very true. And especially when you are querying people, they will say it cannot be published anywhere, including a personal website. Um, like they want stuff that has never been sent out into the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, people who did like AO3 or Wattpad or whatever and are publishing their own fiction, chapter by chapter, is considered self-publishing. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we've talked to a couple of self-publishers who really, really love it. And I want to talk about the positives to it before we get into the negatives, because I do think that it has a really bad rap for
Yeah.
some valid reasons, but I think that there are upsides to it. And like you and I have talked about, it really depends on what you are trying to get out of your own writing journey and your own publishing journey. So some of the upsides to self-publishing is that you are 100% in control of your story. You don't have to justify things to an agent or editor. You can make your own covers or pay somebody to have your own cover created. You are absolutely in charge of everything top to bottom.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yes. Which can also be a
Um,
curse because you are in charge of everything. And talking to Taylor, who is self-published, she really builds the team around herself that you would kind of get through traditional publishing. I mean, she's said that she pays somebody to edit, she pays somebody to design the cover. Like she is really putting in the effort. She talked to us about her spreadsheet of how much do I expect to make? How much can I spend? I mean, she is, I think, an exemplary model of somebody who self-publishes.
right. I think too that I think you don't have to. You could just be a
Mhm.
one-person team. But you don't have to
Yeah.
be. I think even if you are self-publishing, you're just the master of your own
Hmm.
destiny. So you get to like pick out who you want to do your
Yep.
cover and who you trust to edit your
Hmm.
work. But I mean, you don't have to. You could design your
Yeah.
own cover and you could. do all that
Yeah,
yourself too.
absolutely. I mean, because that's the thing with going through the traditional route is you're just assigned an editor, and if they don't get your vision, if you guys are not on the same page, that's going to be a really, really hard uphill battle. Whereas self-publishing,
But
you can find your own editor.
right. But I mean, ideally with
Of
an
course.
agent's going to try and
Of
find you
course.
an
Yeah.
agent that would, I mean, an editor that would see
Yeah.
your vision and be a good fit for
Yes.
you. But again, it doesn't
Yeah,
always work out that way.
exactly. Absolutely. And I think that that's when it comes down to a good agent versus a bad agent, but that's a whole separate podcast. Um,
Yeah. So I have had some experience with
yes, talk to me
self-publishing.
about it.
So I had a novella that I would publish a chapter
Hmm.
of every week on
Yeah.
Tumblr. And I really enjoyed that because it was more like a writing exercise for
Hmm.
me. Like I was able to like it was a challenge to
Hmm.
myself to write something and publish it on there. But I didn't make any money
Hmm.
from that. I got like maybe like 10 people would
Hmm.
like it. Like it wasn't a
Hmm.
big thing. And so because I wasn't actively like promoting it, I just was putting it on my
Hmm.
blog. And I think that that's something that you have to remember is if you are self-publishing, the only way people are going to know it exists is if you are
Yep.
promoting it and screaming it from the rooftops. Nobody's going to do that
Hmm.
for you. And that is a
Yeah.
challenge I mean, for me, that was something I didn't have the
Yeah,
energy to do.
absolutely. Well, and I think that people have the romantic idea that they are going to self-publish something and it is going to be instantly beloved and turned into the next big hit. Because that happens when we look at things, especially in the romance world. 50 Shades of Grey was originally self-published. Magnolia Park was originally self-published. There are so many different stories that were self-published that got huge that then got picked up by a traditional publisher and got
Yeah.
reprinted. Look at TJ Klune. Um, you
Yeah.
know, um,
Look at Andy Weir, The Martian. He originally put
really?
Yep. He was publishing that on his blog. People were
Uh-huh.
commenting on what he should like change and stuff. And like he was working
I
with
love
people
him.
and like
Yeah.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
dream. And then Brandon, we look at
Yeah.
Sanderson too.
Yeah. I always forget about him.
Another big
Yeah.
example of but those
It's so
that's like a
rare.
handful of names.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's very
Hmm.
rare.
Well, and again, we could name 100 people, probably, but that means that there are a million people who have self-published who got nothing. And that's the thing that I think that people don't really understand is I don't have any false notions about making money as a writer. I know that that's most likely not going to happen. I'm never going to be able to make a living off of my writing. Like I'm fully aware of that. However, I still would like to be able to sell a book in a bookstore. And when you
Yeah.
self-publish, so let's just talk about like the Amazon route because I think that that's probably one of the most common is you can publish your story. Again, you upload it in the like EPUB format, whatever, and people can get it on their Amazon Kindles or, digitally. In order to have that book printed and have a physical copy, generally speaking, it goes through a subsidiary called Ingram Spark. Ingram is a publisher. I believe that Ingram falls under Hachette. I could be wrong about that though. But Ingram Spark specifically is their self-publishing thing. And a lot of bookstores do not have contracts with Ingram Spark and cannot get books that have been published that way. I ran into this a lot when I worked at the bookstore, and people would come in trying to, promote their books and ask us to carry it on the shelves. And if they had self-published, we were physically unable to carry that book in stores. So it really is in either or situation. You don't get to self-publish and then also have your book in a bookstore. It just generally doesn't work that way. if you're going to
Mhm.
do that, you'd be better off going through a vanity press or submitting to a small press or something like that,
Or hybrid.
or a hybrid model. Yeah. I don't know a ton about the hybrid models. Do you have information on that? I mean, I know people who have done it, but I don't super understand it.
So a hybrid is kind of like it's kind of tries to be the best of both
Hmm.
worlds. Like it offers you, as far as I understand it, it offers you the ability to have a lot more control over your work and like the way it's presented, while still giving you like a name to publish
Hmm.
under so that it's a recognizable
Hmm.
brand. So you're not just like some guy. It's like, oh, like I know other books from this
Right.
brand, but you also have a lot more creative
Yeah.
control than you would. And I don't know about like
Hmm.
licensing because that's what we're talking about when Abigail's talking about whether
Right.
books can be
Yeah,
put on the
yeah.
shelf. That's a licensing
Exactly.
issue. And I think they probably have, it's probably easier for them to negotiate licensing contracts with
Hmm.
bookstores. And I know that some independent bookstores may carry self-published
Hmm.
stuff, but again, there's some sort of licensing thing that goes around that may require the author to put some money forward
Right.
to, and I also think like to print
Hmm.
books, I think the author has to pay for those, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. They have to like they have to
Yes,
buy
exactly.
the physical
Because
books in
that's
order
the
to
other thing
sell them.
too, is that would have people who were self-published who would try to bring in like a box of books. And we're like, we legally cannot have those on our shelves. So one thing that my bookstore tried to do, and I say my bookstore, I left there forever ago, but anyway, um, one of the things that the bookstore would try to do during the summer is they had like the summer author series. And so they would welcome people who had self-published. You had to sign up for it and you had to pay a fee. But basically, we set you up a table at the back of the store and you could sell your self-published books. So we were not selling them. We made money because you paid for the table for the space. But they would bring their own books, have their like square on their phone, and be able to sell their books in the bookstore. But again, they're there at their table advocating to people. It's not it changes the pressure of the situation where it's not just somebody's casually browsing and finds your book. It is you have to be there advocating, pushing the sale of your book. You're not just a writer, you're also a salesperson.
I'm trying to see like because I know you can have your books on the bookshelf if you're
Hmm.
self-published.
It's really fucking
So I'm
hard
trying to
though.
figure out.
The other thing is the number of different bookstores that I've worked at where I have had managers say to me how much they hate authors because of self-publishing, specifically trying to get into the stores. I mean, it was pretty bad. Like I had to talk to a couple managers to be like, you don't hate authors, you hate this particular person who cannot take no for an answer. Um, you know,
Yeah.
because
I mean, because I think when you are self-publishing, you do kind of have
yeah.
to be a little
Yep.
pushy
You're,
because that's the only way you get
yeah,
stuff
you're
done.
basically a door-to-door salesperson. And like, I do
Yeah.
not have
I
that
don't want
mentality.
that.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't have that. It becomes really exhausting. And again, there are ways to do it that are incredible. There are people who do it who find success. I just know it is not personally for me. And it becomes
Yeah, like
frustrating. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I look at Taylor and I'm like, I could never be
Yeah,
her.
she's
She is
amazing.
so
Hmm.
fantastic. And like that journey works
Hmm.
for her. I would fall
Yeah.
to pieces
Well, and it's
immediately.
also,
Life is
you
too
have
much.
to overcome the stigma of self-publishing as too, because for every incredible person like Taylor who is putting the work in to make sure that her books are exemplary, there are 10 people who have typed up some shit that they think is incredible, who, every single person they've given it to read has been like, I don't really get this. And they're like, fuck you, you don't see my vision, who throw it online and think that they're geniuses. And like that is really the stereotype, like the stigma of self-publishing. The number, like there's literally in my husband's family, there's a guy that my brother-in-law used to work with that self-published a book that's so bad. Oh my God. Like we would quote passages from this book to each other because it was so fucking bad. And that is the stereotype of self-publishing. And it sucks
Yeah,
because it's
like
not all self-publishers.
no, because it's like, it's that concept
Hmm.
of
Yeah,
anyone can publish a book if they
exactly.
self-publish. It's like that's the problem.
Exactly.
And so like it brings down
Hmm.
people, like people think negatively when they hear somebody
Yeah.
self-published. And like I commend people who are
Hmm.
self-published because that is a lot of
Yeah.
work that I personally am not willing to
Hmm.
do. But there are a lot of people that just throw something up, they don't even
Yep.
proofread it.
Exactly.
They just put it out there
Exactly. Yeah.
raw. And like, it's so there's just I think what we're trying to say though is when you self-publish, there's a lot of noise.
Yes. Yes.
And so it's hard to be heard over the noise. Like I know
Hmm.
like these people don't really care. I
Yep.
care. I've put so much time and so much effort into the
Hmm.
story that I really believe
Hmm.
in and I wanted full creative
Exactly.
control. Those people are rare and they are diamonds and they
Yep.
are better people than I
Yeah.
am. And I don't want you to think that just because something's self-published, it's going to be
Agreed.
bad. That's not necessarily
Yep.
true.
Exactly. Yeah. No, so I mean it is admirable the people who really put the work in to do it right. And
Mhm.
I hate giving the whole like right and wrong because it leads into like morality of it all. But the fact of the matter is like there is a right way to build a chair and there is a wrong way to build a chair. It has to be done correctly and done with
Mhm.
care and done with passion. And I think that a lot of people are unwilling to do that work because, as we've stated before, it's really fucking hard to write a book. If it was easy, anybody would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but I think that that's one of the things that frustrates me when people talk about, oh, well, why don't you just self-publish it? Because they think that that's what the deal is that you just write a book and then you throw it up online and then anybody can read it. And to do it right and to do it well, there are so many more steps in trying to explain to people, like, because I don't
Yeah.
want to do that much work. Because if I'm going to do it at all, I want to do it well. It's just frustrating when people try to tell me to self-publish.
Yeah, I think it comes from a place of
Yeah,
ignorance,
absolutely.
and once I think you will
Hmm.
know deep down in your heart what it is that is right for
Yeah.
you and the work that you want to put out and
Hmm.
do. And I've always known that traditional is what I
Same.
wanted. I understand that it is a lot
Yeah.
harder in some
Hmm.
ways because, I have to find the right person at the right time and
Yeah.
convince them to give me a
Hmm.
shot. And there's a lot of hoops that I need to go
Hmm.
through, but it's what I
Hmm.
want for myself because I don't want to do it all by myself. I like working in a
Hmm.
team. I like having feedback. I
Hmm.
like having somebody to bounce ideas off of. I like constructive
Hmm.
criticism. It's something that I need for my work, and it's not something that you necessarily get from a hybrid publisher, depending on the publisher,
Hmm.
or being self-published, unless I'm like actively looking out and trying to find people. And
Hmm.
I'm not a very social person, so I'm not like the kind of person who's gonna go around and make
Same.
friends and like you
Yeah,
know,
exactly. I
get them to help me with
I have a
things.
hard enough time telling people that I'm a writer. I'm not also going to then go and market my own book, you know?
No.
Um, yeah, I think that you're right. It comes from a place of ignorance because people really, the publishing industry is such a mystery, even to the people trying to break into it. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that we talked about with grad school is they taught us how to write. They taught us how to write and how to edit and how to have perseverance in that aspect. But we didn't get any information on publishing because it's a whole other ball game. And so it really is kind of the blind leading the blind sometimes of trying to get your book published. And I think that while it is, I'm going to say harder to get published traditionally, it is easier once the book is published. And I think it's the reverse for self-publishing. It is easier to get the book published because you're just uploading it,
Mhm.
but it is harder once the book is actually published in the sales and the marketing and all the rest of it.
I think um harder. I think they're both really hard,
Yes.
but in completely different
Yes.
ways. Because with self-publishing, if you're doing it
Hmm.
right, you're doing a lot of
Yeah.
legwork ahead of
Hmm.
time. Like you're getting people to edit
Hmm.
it. You're doing it all yourself. All of that work that gets done in between selling your book to
Yep.
publishing it in traditional, you're doing all that
Hmm.
yourself. Like, how do I best market this? What cover would look
Exactly.
good? Um, let's make sure
Hmm.
that this character makes
Hmm.
sense and get all this feedback before blah blah
Yep.
blah. So I think like people think that self-publishing,
Hmm.
oh, self-publishing is easy, you just
Right.
upload it. But that's not necessarily the
Hmm.
case. Or, if you care about your work, you're still going to put a lot of work
Hmm.
forward. But also, like you said, there's a ton of work once it gets pushed
Exactly.
out. Because if you want to sell it at
Hmm.
all, you're going to have to
Hmm.
you're going to have to do all that
Yeah.
legwork. And so in some ways, that's a
Hmm.
lot harder.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that even if you publish traditionally and you have a team of people behind you, you still have to promote your own work. You still have to, promote and market, but you have people help give you ideas. You have, um, a publishing house that already has followers and reputation are going to also market your book. I follow several agents who are promoting their authors' books and stuff, but it doesn't mean that you just get to sit back and let everybody else do the work. So
Right.
like, no matter what, it's fucking difficult.
Yes.
Outside of just writing the damn book, publishing it, period, is a challenge.
Yeah, no matter what way you're going to go, you're still going to face a lot of challenges. It's going to be really
Exactly.
hard. So if anyone's like, oh, just self-publish it, clearly does not understand the industry at all.
Exactly.
And that's
Yeah.
okay. They don't have
Right.
to. It's not their
Yeah.
business. Like, as in, it's not what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's not their business, but like it's
Yeah.
not, they don't need to know
No,
about it because
exactly.
it's not
Yeah.
something that
Yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
have to
I
do.
mean, just explaining, we've talked about it before, just explaining the agenting process to my friends and family, people don't know about it. It is so not your thing at all, but there's a TV show called Younger that the premise of the show is incredibly silly. But she is working in the publishing industry. And I personally think that it's obviously a TV show. It's obviously still unrealistic, but I think that it's a pretty accurate representation of the publishing industry, because she gets a job as an assistant to a marketing person within the company, but her best
Mhm.
friend is an editor who is trying to like find authors and stuff, and they bring in agents who come and pitch the books, and they go through, eventually that editor becomes the head of her own subsidiary within the greater traditional publishing company. And so they
Mhm.
talk about subsidiaries and how they're cultivating their own titles and their own brand within this greater brand. And if anybody like wants a fun, easy rom-com TV show that stars Sutton Foster, but like also has a really good grasp on what their traditional publishing industry looks like, I could not recommend Younger enough. I will say it is a really stupid, silly rom-com though. So again, I know it's not really your thing, but it was good.
So I think we're coming towards the end, but I do want to finish on kind of going back and like talking about the scale of self-publishing to traditional publishing,
Yes.
hybrid being in the
Yes.
middle. Self-publishing is you're going to put the most money
Hmm.
forward
Yeah.
to invest in your project, depending on how much you want to do for that
Yep.
project. With traditional, they're going to offer you
Hmm.
money, but that might not be a lot, but they would pay to publish your
Exactly.
book. Whereas self-publishing, you're paying to publish your book because you have to pay for all
Yep.
the marketing and editing, et cetera, et cetera. Hybrid would be somewhere in the middle. Like you are putting money
Hmm.
towards it, but probably not as much as you would if you it was just by
Exactly.
yourself. Like because with a hybrid publishing model, they have staff on hand that can help and assist you. You have the most help in a traditional publishing. They have full teams for everything. Hybrid, there is teams available to you, maybe not the same kind that would be available for traditional. Self-publishing, you can have whatever team you want. You just have to go find it. And then with traditional, we have the least amount of control.
Yep.
And that also is on a sliding gradient with depending how big the
Hmm.
press is. With a smaller press, you may have more
Exactly.
wiggle room of what to say. Hybrid, you would have a lot more say, creative control wise, but you would still have the most creative
Yep.
control in something like self if you're self-publishing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Those are the points that I really wanted to
Yeah.
make specifically to kind of compare those three
No, I think that's a
models.
beautiful summation.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks. But no method is wrong.
Mm-mm.
There is no, you're not a bad author because you chose to do a hybrid
Hmm.
method or because you chose self-publishing or
Yep.
traditional. You're not a snob because you went
Hmm.
traditional. You're not
Yeah.
vain because you went self-publishing.
Exactly.
It, it's just picking the right thing that is not just for your work, but for you as a
Hmm.
person, what works for you. Like I keep harping on is self-publishing doesn't work for me because I don't want to be the marketing
Yep.
guy. I don't want to have to figure out what the cover
Yep.
looks like. I don't want to be responsible for all the text on the page without somebody else to tell me that I put a comma in the wrong place. I just don't want that kind of
I mean
pressure.
this in
But
the best way possible because I feel like you and I are on the same page. Um, I don't believe in myself enough to market myself. I need somebody who believes in me for me, if that
yeah,
makes
like
sense.
I don't know why you'd want to
Right,
read
that's
my
what I'm
book.
saying. Like, I don't know, you might want to read it, but like it's kind of boring, but I don't know. Like,
Yeah, like
yeah,
rejection letters, I understand. I understand. I'm like, oh yeah, I understand. You don't want to read my
I get
book?
it. Me
Fair.
either.
That's fair. Me neither. I don't know. So like, I wonder. Like,
Yeah.
I always make a joke. Like, if I ever do get published, that my PR person would not want me to promote my book because I'd be like, I mean, you could read it if you
Yeah.
want. It's not
No,
that
I'm
good,
right there
but
with
like,
you.
if you want to, it's
Exactly.
okay, I guess.
Mm.
But also, hopefully, I think maybe with traditional,
Hmm.
enough hands will touch it that I'll be like, oh, it's good
Yes,
now.
exactly.
Because like TJ Klune was talking about, like if these books are any good, it's
I
because of
know,
these
yeah.
ladies that have been
Yeah.
reading it. And I think that maybe that would give me the confidence to be like,
Yeah.
oh no, I didn't make a good
Hmm.
book, but these people like beat it into shape for
Exactly.
me.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I agree. People think that writing is a very solitary pursuit, but the fact of the matter is it's incredibly collaborative. And having the people around you, no matter how you choose to publish, I think makes or breaks a book. I think that that
Mhm.
is what makes a book good or not is having that community and that collaboration around you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think at the end of the day, it's probably good to just sit and think
Mm.
what it is that you
Yep.
want for your writing journey, for your writing, and as a person, what makes the most sense for you.
Exactly.
And don't get don't let those naysayers tell you that you're picking the wrong way.
Exactly. Yes. Don't let anybody make you feel bad about the way that you've chosen to go. But also don't be shitty to people who choose something different, you know?
Totally.
Because I know that there are a lot of authors out there who will say, like, you self-publish or, oh, you really think you need to go traditional? Like, don't be shitty to other people. Like, they're on their own writing journey and they're doing what's best for them. I'm Abigail.
And I'm Maddie, and this has been
Two writers.
Many Wrongs.